Hey guys, Doc Loyal back here with a different kind of video. I haven't done one from the table in a little while, so just pretend that we're playing with blackjack. Anyway, guys, this is Ghost Rider issue number 3 from 1991, and it's written by Howard Mackie with art by Javier Saltares and inks by Mark Texeria. And I went back just to reread the first 2 issues and this one before I did the review. And you've got Blackout here, who's fighting Ghost Rider. And in the first issue, we get to meet the new Ghost Rider of the 1990s, Danny Ketch. Danny and her sister are going out to the graveyard on Halloween, and supposedly it's the graveyard out by where Harry Houdini is buried. So she told Danny that he was supposed to take her out there so that she could get some photos, because people were supposed to be going out there and trying to speak to Harry Houdini, resurrect his spirit, whatever, for Halloween. Instead, they end up running afoul of Death Watch, and he's fighting against some of the Kingpin's men over a briefcase. And nobody really knows in the first issue what is in the briefcase until the very end, and you find out it's some canisters. Well, Kingpin wants the canisters, Death Watch wants the canisters, and now in the second issue, Blackout comes in, and he's he's not a real vampire, but he's got mechanical fangs and things like that. And so now you've got Death Watch, you've got Blackout, and you've got the Kingpin all kind of moving together, along with this band of this gang called the, let's see, who was it? Cypress Hill. Oh, shoot. Can't remember what the name of the gang is, guys, but I guess I'm not from New York City, so I don't remember what their names are. But anyway, certain members of this gang seem to be followed by this Ghost Rider. And here we have Death Watch trying to get a member of the gang out of prison so that he can interrogate her himself. Now, one thing about this is when these two artists get it right, it's very, very much almost like a Neil Adams level of realism. It's crazy how these first, 5, 6, 7 issues of this title look so realistic and so detailed. And I guess it's probably the inking by Mark Texeria, because his artwork seems to be, it's almost like Klaus Janson. You can always tell when Janson has inked somebody because of the way that he does dry inks, and it almost overpowers whoever the penciler is. So if it was John Buscema, then he would overpower that. John Romita Jr. and he have done a lot of work together, and you can always tell when John Jr. is inked by Klaus Janson, and it's kind of the same thing here. But anyway, we've got the members of the gang, and they've run into this mausoleum, and here comes Death Watch and Blackout. Meanwhile, the Kingpin wants those canisters, and he tells the arranger to make it happen no matter what he has to do. Well, Danny is over here trying to find out. He doesn't like the Ghost Rider entity, okay? It spooks him, but it's kind of like Miracle Man. When the Ghost Rider comes out, then Danny Ketch goes somewhere else, but he can kind of see and hear and know what's going on. So he doesn't like it, but he knows that it's the only way that he can help these kids and help, save lives. So Death Watch finally explains in this issue what the canisters are, and it's pretty much a nerve toxin. And it's going to, when all 3 of those canisters get unleashed, then it's going to cause death on a massive scale. Not just in New York City, but it's going to be a plague that is going to sweep all over the country. And since Death Watch, his name is Death Watch. So he says, and for one with my sensitivity to death, that will be ecstasy. And today I will receive a very large fee for simply obtaining and releasing the contents of these canisters, whether they live up to the expectations of my employer or not. So then here comes the arranger, and he says, you know, give me the canisters. And Deathwatch says, okay, well, Blackout, go ahead and give him the canisters. Blackout says, if Deathwatch doesn't want the canisters, then they're mine because they're physically in my possession. So I choose to use them. And meanwhile, you get to see that the Ghost Rider has come onto the scene, although people hadn't seen that yet. And he attacks Blackout, and they fight. And in the midst of this battle, one of the canisters gets opened, and the mist gets all over Blackout and Rider, but it doesn't seem to affect Ghost Rider. So Blackout bites Ghost Rider, and he says, allow me to bring you to my darkness permanently. And when he does, then Hellfire burns Blackout's face and deforms him. And in the end, you get to see the Kingpin. And what's funny about Wilson Fisk is it took him years to build up to become the Kingpin. And in the end, he says, I'll watch and I'll wait. So you get this one ongoing story in the first 3 issues of Ghost Rider, and it's not set up as a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 5, part 7. It's not like that. Howard Mackie is telling one congruent story throughout all of these issues. And it was one of the premier titles for about 3.5 or 4 years at Marvel in the 90s. It was great to see Ghost Rider come back, although this was a completely different iteration of it than it had been with Johnny Blaze in the 1970s and the 80s, earlier 80s. But this book is really a lot of fun. Like I said, I want to say that the first 30 to 35 issues of this book are extremely strong. Howard Mackie stayed on the title, I want to say, until the early 60s, and then he left the title. And then, unfortunately, the book only lasted about 3 years after he left. But there were some really great stories between he and Johnny Blaze when Johnny Blaze finally does return. And then you get Spider-Man in the mix, you get Hobgoblin, you get Zodiac, you get all of these different amazing characters that came out of the mind of Howard Mackie before he moved over to the Spider-Man titles during the Clone Saga. But just amazing stuff. Just absolutely amazing stuff, guys. So if you can find these first 5 or 10 issues of Ghost Rider in the dollar bins, I would totally recommend you going out there and searching for them, because you will not be disappointed. Thanks for watching this retro review, guys. I hope you're having a wonderful Monday, and I've got more content coming your way very, very soon. Take care, guys.